At Nissen, wrapping up his two-day visit to the troubled northern areas of Port Elizabeth. Let's take it there live.
Thank you, William. The chairperson, honourable member, the Freund, the Khoisan community, station commander, CPF, senior officers, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I was tasked this morning to do this small presentation that we compiled for the gender-based violence, and I'm sure that we allocated copies to you all. We were supposed to do a PowerPoint presentation, but unfortunately, we haven't got the resources here at the resource center. We took an average of 6 months, where we totaled from August 2020 to January 21 the number of cases that were reported, and we have a total of 159. And October was the month that reported the most cases. That was 19.50% increase, a total of 31 cases. But on average for the 6 months, there were 159 cases that were reported. The type of crime that were related to gender-based violence is assault common, assault GBH, is murder, attempted murder, rape and sexual assault, theft, MI2 property, pointing of firearm, the Domestic Violence Act in terms of protection orders, and criminal injury. We find that the domestic violence cases is 25.16% of the total cases, followed by assault common, which is 23.90%, and assault GBH, which is 20.13%. Then the victim details. We find that the gender is mostly female, total of 117, and there were 42 male victims. The ages of the victims are 12 between 0 and 17, 41 between 18 and 30, 42 between 31 and 40, and 19 between 41 and 50. And the majority of the victims, 51 and older, are 45%, total number 45. And so in saying this, we are saying that the older, 51 and older, are the most victims concerning the gender-based violence cases. 73.58% of the cases are domestic violence, and the victims are female. The places of occurrence, our hotspots, is Ellen Vale, which has the highest number of cases, that is sector 1, and the other sectors, sector 2, 3, and 4, has cases that are below 35. But 85 cases were reported in Ellen Vale to reiterate what the community members are also saying concerning gender-based violence. Suspects arrested. The suspects are mostly between the age of 18 and 40. So it's the youngsters that are committing these offences on the older people over the ages of 51 and older. So the young people are getting into the parents, they're stealing, assaulting them for money, for drugs, and so on. The relationship between the victims and the suspect, we find that 45 cases were boyfriends, the highest number. Then it's the son, 31 cases. Then it's ex-boyfriend, there's 23 cases. And then we go on to the husband, there's ex-husbands, there's mother, father, sisters, brothers, daughters, cousins, ex-girlfriend, grandfathers, step-sons, grandsons, sister-in-laws. So 28.30% of these cases were committed by boyfriend to the victim. Then we put up some of our challenges that we also face as the members of the SABC. Most of these cases occur indoor, so it's difficult to police because the perpetrators are either family members who know each other in the house, and the police van is driving down the road. And we cannot say now there's no offense being committed because it's happening indoors. Complainants withdrawing the cases, as the commissioner mentioned, they open a case on Friday, and on Sunday they're at the police station who's going to fit the family, so they withdraw the case. So the large number of cases are being withdrawn even before it goes to court. Then in Ellen Vale, and even in the Galvin area, there's a lot of single-parented families, and there's a lot of child-headed families. Now these single-parent families and child-headed families are not able to raise children with good and sound principles because they themselves now are learning what to do. So that's also one of the challenges that we face. Sure. Drug abuse by youngsters resulting in children assaulting their parents to get drug money, or they steal stuff from the house to go and sell, to buy drugs. A shortage of social workers in the area. Yes, there is the victim-friendly centers that are in operation, but there's still, in relation to the cases that are reported, there's still a shortage of social work that needs to be done. We also identified there's limited intervention by religious organizations, and it's also mentioned there by the commissioner earlier on that the religious organizations are just there, they're not actually doing anything good to uplift society. Those are one of the challenges we also face. Ellen Vale and Gallandale itself has also a high unemployment rate. We recorded in the last census of 48% unemployment rate. And then the issue of school dropouts. It was also mentioned by the previous speakers that people don't want to go to school because they're sitting in one class for 5 years, and eventually if the school drop out, that ends up to be a gangster. So that's also another challenge. Some of our best practices we use, we have a victim support center at the police station where they do case resolution. They try to get the victim and the suspect together and try to mediate and see that how we can send them for counseling or whatever. So cases of that nature do occur, and there's resolution, and those cases are not reported. So that's also in progress at the station. We're doing crime awareness at schools. Okay, lately because of the COVID, we haven't been to much schools, but we've been doing it in the past where we go out to schools and we do crime awareness campaigns for gender-based violence, for domestic violence, drug abuse, and gangsterism. We also do pamphlet distribution at the schools, and we also try to go out to the old age homes. So these are some of the best practices that we put in place, and above that is the challenges that I mentioned. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for that short, concise, and to the point. Yes, sir.
Thank you. As you can see, we were going to have a PowerPoint presentation of MP. So we were not going to hand out the crime stats. So if you could maybe just leave it for us and not take it with you, please.
People, thank you, Brigadier, for the reminder. We are all aware that crime stats is not for public consumption. It gets annually. We will get it. But thank you at least for the insight that a person can have on these matters. Yeah. Baie dankie.
No, just thank you for the presentation, Colonel.
Thank you.
But I understand the issue around the crime stats, but we'll communicate with one another in terms of the challenges in your interventions. That's my interest.
Yeah.
Om te weet wat doen julle in terme van die programs naar die skole toe. We understand, you are correct, that it's very difficult under COVID. We at times can't even enter school premises as well because they have their own protocols that is there. So if I can just get that type of information in terms of the broader challenges and so on, there is a committee, the Committee on Police from the National Assembly that will visit the metro also very soon to come and look at the incidents of GBV and other issues. You know, Pastorina, this thing of GBV and femicide is happening under this bigger cloud of common criminality and gangsterism in our society. Now, I think you have mentioned now, Colonel, the fact that you have such a lot of different church organizations and groupings in Hellenvale. I think as meer Florence Kerke as gangster groepe hier so in Hellenvale itself. But you must understand the dynamics in society where these people live. They live amongst the gangsters themselves, right? And the intimidation that is there in these areas scare off people. And the example that you mentioned earlier, that the suspect that you took the risk to say this is the person must be arrested, and a few hours later it's out again, you're placing yourself at risk. And where I grew up in Glendenning Street in Shorterville, they had the flats, near the flats where the machines are operating. You can see on a daily basis how the community gets intimidated by small things, because the police are not there every minute of the day to police the areas. So there's certain societal dynamics that kick in, and also the prevalence that is taking place in the area, that when the police go to do an intervention, right, the suspect must be arrested, then you find out that the community are actually depending on their livelihood or something else from these gangsters, and they attack the police. Instead of assisting the police, the community is used in the front line to protect the gangsters. So that is part, it's not the work of the police only. There are other role players who have a critical role to play, including the different organizations that are there. In the constituency office, Christian, we were running before COVID regularly. And I did it here in Hellenvale as well with Pastor Samuel and them, where they had a street soccer tournament. But then after a while, in other areas as well where we had it, we found out that the teams are now made up from different gang groups. They play against one another. Now it's a good thing to get them to play against one another, but with it goes other types of challenges, in that they start illegal betting of money, and they start buying these players, and they support the players. So the issue of gangsterism cannot be underestimated. It is there, and it is not only a matter for the police to solve. I said earlier when the commissioner was also here, and hopefully he will return soon, so that we can do the visit, Brigadier. I said that we are not here to point fingers at one another. When you are a partner and you work towards one goal, then you don't point fingers at one another. All of us are exactly in the same situation. We also know that the police men and women, police officers, they also live amongst communities. They also have challenges. There was once an incident where a police officer and his family were busy shopping in a shopping center. And the gangsters just walked up to him and said, "We know where you stay." Right? He lives in that community there. So they are also human beings that face exactly the same threat of criminality that is there. But thank you, Brigadier, for the blunt. We don't always get presentations like that, I must say, especially in terms of the numbers. So we know the sensitivity around that. I don't think General Kele will be impressed if a document like that ends up on the street or somewhere else to say this is the exact situation as we are now, because it must get reported through the proper channels that are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cedric. Now, I think from our side, let us thank, I think we're just going to wait on Mr. Grobler. Yeah, it's your turn. Come on.
Thank you. I think this comes further in 1.5 meters, I think.
Nee, kan maar hier kom staan. Jy's safe.
Kan ek moet praat met
Dan is het veiliger om aan te staan met hom af. Gaan ons cheaper uitkom.
I won't take long, people. Thank you very much, gentlemen, ladies. I think most of you know me by now. I want to touch quickly on one thing. Before we touch on the 3 GBV cases, which is our priority cases at the moment, and which you are also inquiring about. Gangsterism, that is something that we have to look at very carefully. I've been involved in gangsterism since 2013. So I know all about gangsterism and the effect thereof. Quite correctly, as was said by Florence and the people that stay in the area, gangsters had a huge impact, socioeconomically, economically, and also regarding GBV. A lot to do with GBV. First of all, the gang becomes the family structure, so they don't actually recognize their own family structures anymore. Sure. There's no respect between the child, and some of these gangsters are as young as 14, 12, 11, still kids, man. And they get involved by first running a bit of mandrakes, then standing post, and next minute they must go shoot someone, and that's how they get involved. So the parents have no say or control over them. And then also very important, I said, is socio-economically. It is so that the gang will buy the bread, the electricity, necessities for the specific street or block on which they are in charge. But they do expect in return some loyalty, some things that must come to their way. The firearm must be stashed when I want it to be stashed. The firearm must be removed from the murder scene when the shooting has occurred. And of course you will never get a witness to testify against the gangsters that were actually shooting, because half the people on that street owe them a favor, or they are too scared to testify. But I do have to say that the SAPS have got things in place which we don't openly discuss necessarily to safeguard our witnesses, and it's getting the community to get the trust back in the SAPS. That's very, very important. Unfortunately, in times it has run a bit wrong somewhere, but we need to get the community to trust us and understand that we will protect them as far as we can. And in the end of the day, the biggest protection of all is that we remove the gangsters from the streets of the northern areas and put them away forever. That is how you're going to, in the end of the day, succeed in protecting. Regarding the GBV cases, I'm going to ask my murder commander, who's part of my murder group, or the leader of my murder group, who are investigating and tasked with investigating gang shootings and GBV cases, to just give you a quick briefing. Please do understand that some of the information that he cannot give you. There is investigations that are very, very sensitive at this stage, but I can assure you that GBV cases to us is an enormous priority at our detective unit. So especially also when it becomes to murder, attempted murder, and of course then rape. So I'm going to ask Colonel Dippenaar to just give you a quick overview over the three most important, not that there's one more important than the other, but the three highlight ones that was in the media recently. I've also got the investigating officers of those specific cases here to support when you go to the crime scene. I believe you want to go there, sir.
Yes.
You can ask them questions, but the big thing is, please, we must be very sensitive on what we say, because there are arrests that's going to occur within the next short time period, and we don't want to jeopardize our court procedures and our court investigations. Is that fine with you?
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you. Then I'll ask Colonel Dippenaar to please come ahead and just give you a quick feedback on the three major cases. Thank you, sir.
Ja, baie dankie Mr. Grobler. Colonel Dippenaar, as jy vorentoe kan kom, sê vir ons baie, maar sê vir ons niks.
Good afternoon. We've got three major cases that's been a problem the last 6 months. The first one was a lady that was killed in Shoreville. She was severely beaten and then raped and killed and left in the veld. We've been investigating for the last 3 months, and we're slowly getting information, and we actually arrested a lady on Monday on a different case, and she might be linked to this one. So
The State Capture Commission is back on. Let's take you back.